Welcome into a brand new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's PGA Championship. Pretty big one. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there. Joe Idoni. Joe, I'm on your coast. I'm on East Coast time for the first time in a while for one of these Power Hours.
Let's go. It's 8:15 clocking in on Rick Gaiman's
Literally
clock this
8:15.
week. He's
Yeah.
got boots on the ground. He's been inside the rope. So I'm so fired up to sort of pick your brain and talk about a little Wanamaker action this week for the next 45 minutes of the Jock Market IPO here.
Awesome. I'm stoked. Yeah, we'll obviously get into the golf course. We'll get into everything, but this is the icing on top of a major championship cake. This is the final bit of content that we are going to do. It is honestly the one that while we're on the air is really of the highest value because there's bidding going on right now. Like the live game is happening now. So we're playing stock market DFS. Golfers are now shares in the market. You can bid on those golfers if you're one of the high bidders when this IPO closes right around 9 p.m. Eastern time. Those shares are allocated to you. And then, Joe, that's how you assemble your portfolio. You can trade live, you can short, and we enter really the fun and games of a four-day major championship sweat.
Absolutely. Like we always talk about, every single player in the field has a price. And what I love about sort of finishing the week off with this is how it sort of keeps you on your toes. You, like myself, I'm sure, have been putting in extensive research on the course. We've seen the odds for 2, 3, 4 weeks now. We had other DFS formats where the salaries were released early. All of that is for the most part pretty stagnant, and we could really develop our narratives about who we like this week. This thing keeps you on your toes. And what I mean by that is a player for $8.40, I could absolutely love, and I could hate that same player for $9.40. And I absolutely don't know which direction my take is going to go as this thing sort of evolves over the next 45 minutes and the market continues to mature with pricing. So it's all kind of up for grabs. It makes it a very fun hour each week.
Certainly. So as you are trying to figure out what's going on, we can get you another $100 in there. We can use the code POWER. That is a promo code for the best deposit bonus that you can get. There is a link in the description. You can use that. Get yourself an extra $100 and join in on the fun. There's the stock market side of things, and there is the prop pick'em side of things. So you'll be able to take advantage of both this week, Joe. I know the golf props are already out. We have seen that major championships have generally been pretty sizable markets, so I expect that there's going to be a lot of shares available. I expect that there's going to be a lot of hard stances on golfers. I expect there's going to be a lot of money in the market this week.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the pick'em side. We have another sort of exciting feature to unveil a little bit later on in the show, but they've got round one strokes for it looks like at least 20 players here. They've got birdies or better in round one. They've got cuts made action for a number of guys, 6 guys. You can basically factor into your parlay on whether they're going to make the cut or not. So just fun, new, innovative ways that they're continuing to keep me on this app that is Jock Market. But we're going to excited to cover the sort of stock market side of things and talk about guys who are bullish and bearish on over the next 40 minutes here.
So let's put this to an example from last week. So here is last week's market. Jason Day sold last week at $8.30 per share. He won the tournament. That gets you the full payout with the guaranteed payouts at each one of these positions. That means that Jason Day returns you a profit of $16.70 for every share that you owned. Siwoo Kim sold last Wednesday for $7 per share, finished at 20. Austin Eckroat, here's your big boy. Austin Eckroat in the mix throughout the entire event. Long shot of all long shots. Doesn't win. Doesn't cash your outright ticket. Sold last Wednesday at 333. Payout is $18 per share. That is $15 of profit per share. CT Pan in the mix as well, Joe. So really, two of the four highest payouts were guys that were $3.33 per share or cheaper last week.
Yeah, and keep in mind the starting point is $1 per share, so your player can finish absolutely dead last in the tournament. And you're still getting back $1 per share, which makes the opportunity to add a ton of shares. Every player in this field has more available than anyone can possibly imagine. So you can get a lot of shares of these guys at $3 per share, knowing that the downside is still getting that dollar payout if they make a cut, knowing that the upside is potentially the top ROI at the week because of such a low starting point. So different ways to play it. You know that I like to kind of grab a couple of guys from each range sort of as the night goes on and in the final minutes here. So sort of excited to see how this market unfolds as things move along.
We've got about 38 minutes or so until this IPO closes, so we've got plenty of time. What we'll start with is we'll play a game of bullish or bearish. This is Joe and I's opportunity to take a stance on four different golfers. And Joe, I was getting everything set up before the show. We have not collaborated on this. We have not talked about the golfers that we want to cover for this week. So why don't we just do it this way? Let's start with one golfer you're bullish on, and then I'll go to a golfer that I'm bullish on. You'll do bearish. I'll do bearish. Let's just do it that way.
Okay. You want? Why don't you lead us off?
Okay, so I'll start with a golfer that I am bullish on, and that is going to be Wyndham Clark. So Wyndham Clark, the way that we do this is currently sitting at a $6.09 fair value. So that takes into account how often he's going to win and get the full $25 per share payout, how often he's going to finish second and get the $20 per share payout, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and gives you basically what his fair value should be. That's $6.09. That is asking Wyndham Clark to finish 27th or better. Joe, there's this weird thing that happens where a guy wins and then nobody wants to play him. Or in this case, a guy wins, finally breaks through at a big boy golf course like Quail Hollow, an impressive victory against an impressive elevated field. And then we go to a major championship and like there's just too many other names to talk about, right? There's just too many other guys. Yeah. And Wyndham Clark is really well suited for Oak Hill. You know, he hits it far. His iron game is top notch. His short game is much improved. There's a reason he's like the fifth best golfer in the world over the last couple of months. I'm continuing with Wyndham Clark. I'm rolling on very bullish.
Yeah, you know what? I'm bullish as well, especially in this format on Wyndham Clark. Do I think he's going to win the PGA championship? Probably not. I think he has a chance. But when you look at how he's playing right now in comparison to his 100-round baseline, and I was actually looking at this a little bit on your site earlier this week, sort of with that heat index. He's one of the top guys in the field. So he's performing at a level well above his sort of long-term baseline. He's coming into a course that should reward many of his strengths, including being top 5 or 6 in the field in terms of carry distance off the tee. You mentioned he just won it. Actually, he was whatever 20 under par, but Quail Hollow played very difficult. The amount of strokes gained he was able to pile up in that event was one of the higher marks that we've seen in a number of years. He's playing fantastic. I think the confidence of getting that first win will suit him well, and I like him. That $6.09 expectation in terms of a fair value price that they've set on our guy this week.
Out early on Thursday morning with Nico Echevarria and Wyatt Worthington off the first tee. All right, Joe, where are you going with your bullish guy?
Yeah, shout out Wyatt. Get his name in there, man. I'm excited to see how sort of he performs this week.
You got to pay the bills, yeah.
Absolutely, man. Okay, listen, I was gonna talk about Brooks because I'm so bullish on Brooks, but the fair value price is just flat out wrong on him this week. If you look at him all the way down there, you know, in the mid 30s in the market or whatever. Let's talk a little bit about Dustin Johnson. Here's another guy that we don't have a whole lot of data on in terms of stats and analytics because Live Tour just doesn't release those or is very forthright about collecting that sort of data. But what I've seen with my eyes is the guy has sort of figured out the driver recently. I know that he's got 24 PGA Tour wins. A number of those have come in the Northeast. This seems to be a spot where he's very comfortable. This seems to be a spot where he's very comfortable with his game right now. I think that was a monster win for him last week in a number of ways. One, he had a 3-shot lead with a back nine to play and ended up triple bogeying out of a weather delay. If he's not able to get into that playoff, I think a lot of the minimum goes the opposite way for him potentially this week. But the momentum that he was able to capture from birdieing the 18th and then birdieing the first playoff hole, getting that victory when he frankly deserved to win last week, I think sets up great for him this week was his strength. I'm hoping that he maybe is a little bit overlooked like I think he was the last time we saw him at the Masters. 661, you need a top 25 out of DJ. I like it.
Top 25 out of Dustin Johnson. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was just about to read it off as well. Listen, this is a guy who sets up so well for U.S. Open, sets up so well for PGA Championships. He has all the skills required, and you're right. We know it's kind of what we saw Brooks do. Round into form on live, get a win, go to the Masters, and make noise. And we might be seeing the same thing from DJ. I agree with you that I would certainly fall on the bullish side of things. So when we go to a bearish player, this is where it gets hard to take a stand on a guy that you think is going to underperform. Now, in our market here in the jock market, you could actually short these golfers, right? So I'm going to roll with the 7th pre-ranked golfer in Cam Smith. His fair value is $6.99. That is asking him to finish about 22nd or better. I saw Cam up close and personal for 9 holes. I'll tell you what, Joe, I got a couple of things. One, very nice guy. Great guy. Was having a blast. It was fun.
But
I'll give you one more positive. The short game was nice. He still got that saucy little short game. He sprayed it all over the yard, man, which we know is kind of the issue. We also know the problem with him at Oak Hill is he's not long enough to get past the crap. Right? Like these bunkers and the hazards that are out there are so well positioned. The way these trees overhang, he is just not long enough to get past a lot of that stuff. And he plays from a disadvantage after every single tee shot. I think that grinds on you over 72 holes. I take the bearish side on Cam Smith.
that's interesting. And I tend to agree with you in terms of jock market. I bet Cam Smith this week. I'm one of the people that took him a week ago because I had seen a lot of the trending form in following Live pretty closely. Second, third, sixth, seventh were his last 4 starts on the Live Tour. So things have been really trending in a positive direction post Masters. The driving distance I worry about as well, Rick. Although I will say that I watched a lot of him this past Sunday. He outdrove Dustin Johnson on the final hole, that playoff hole. He's hitting at about 305 to 310 off the tee generally. So I think that he can pack it. It's just whether or not that thing's online or not. I will say Cam, I think, makes a better outright bet because his upside is when he's got the short game magic going, he can compete on any golf course. We've seen it
Right.
do it on wide open tracks like the second at Augusta and Tournament of Champions and the Open Championships at St. Andrews. But he's also done it on extremely penal, tough off the tee courses like the Sony, like the Players Championship. He's just got that intangible ability and magical hands around the green that I tend to believe in his ability to win when in contention. He's clutch as well. But I think in jock market, there's so many other outside variables that make me a little bit less intrigued in this format in particular.
Bud, you want to finish us off here with one more golfer that maybe you're not so excited about this week?
Yeah, for me, it's Colin Morikawa.
Mm.
I understand that the narrative has sort of developed, and I'm interested to get your opinion on how it's maybe changed throughout the week, where a lot of people seem to be gearing up a little bit more toward players who are accurate off the tee. He's got that in his favor. I don't think it's working to the same degree it has in the past, and I just worry. Frankly, I'm very surprised that a player who struggles both with the putter and around the green with the pitching and chipping has been able to win 2 major championships. Like usually it's a place that heightens the importance of that and has a greater emphasis on getting up and down for par. And it's just something that he's sort of consistently struggled with. Missed the cut at the Zurich. I'm not going to hold that too much against him, but also missed the cut at the Wells Fargo. He's going back and forth with putting grips. 31st at the Heritage. He doesn't have a top 30 in his last 3 starts. I have concerns. I'm probably going to be bearish given where he has his fair value projected at this week.
That's fair because you look at a couple of items in Colin Morikawa's game, and you wonder. Okay, so the reason that people are getting a little bit more bullish, and I think it is correct as the week has gone on, is these fairways are much faster than I think we anticipated, and they are really rolling out. So if you are hitting fairways, they are long enough. You just got to keep it in play. I only saw Colin Morikawa hit one shot this week. I watched him hit literally one swing. He was 1 foot into the right rough on number one, and he could barely advance it. He like whiffed it, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, this rough is so sick, and also that was not the one shot that I wanted to see. The other thing, Joe, that I'm not sure if we have enough evidence. Like, I don't know if we're still in narrative mode or if there's any evidence of this, but the last handful of times he's had to play in the wind, he has been swatted, and I think that it's kind of gusty around here in some spots, and there's going to be wind gusts of up to 25 all week long. Like, I think it's enough evidence to kind of be concerned about what Colin's up to.
Yeah, I think the difficulty, I think the weather, I think that all of those factors tend to be more important this week, and it's going to play more like a US Open PGA Championship that we've seen more recently, probably than what we saw at Harding Park or what we saw when he had perfect scoring conditions over there at the Open Championship that he won. This place is going to be a different animal, and I can see it frustrating, and particularly for a player that is struggling to find it a little bit and not performing to their level of expectation. Anytime you introduce a beast of a golf course and potential for double, triple bogeys, that can frustrate a guy very easily when things are already a little bit on tilt.
Let's go to the big board and look at the live pricing for the very first time. And it is pretty mature with 27 minutes to go because Jon Rahm has already surpassed his fair value. He is currently $9.50 per share, Joe. That is asking him to finish 13th or better. We know what Rahm does in the jock market. We know he is not going to stop anytime soon. It is just a matter of where he finishes up and if he can live up to that expectation.
Yeah, already clear of his fair value. He will clear into the double digits here probably pretty soon. I like Jon Rahm this week somehow, some way. I think in a lot of the mainstream coverage that I've seen, when I flip on Golf Channel, I feel like he can be potentially a little bit overlooked somehow as the best player in the world, as someone just coming off a dominant performance at the last major championship when he opened with a 4 putt and got the bad weather wave and still was able to sort of coast to a victory at the Masters. Somehow, I don't feel like we're giving him enough credit coming into this week. The sports books have him and Scotty Scheffler pretty level. Scheffler is actually a favorite in a head-to-head matchup against Rahm. What are your thoughts on that? How do you rank those two? Because I know that you're very high on Scheffler this week.
I am, but they are very much. I think it is clear that they are the best two players in the world, and it's not even close. I think there's a pretty significant gap. I think if you asked 100 people who watch golf, like, hey, who are the three best players in the world? I think everyone would say Scotty and Rahm, and then there'd be like a lot of questions about who the third guy is. Rahm is so stout, has everything in play. I split hairs and I said, hey, listen, I think it's Scotty's. I think he's just been a little bit more dominant and consistent from tee to green. But
Yeah.
like Rahm's phenomenal. Rahm's great. Rahm could be awesome at Oak Hill, right? Like there's a reason he's like that guy in jock market. So yeah, I'm scared that I settled on Scotty instead of Jon Rahm.
Yeah, he's been that dude in jock market. There's no doubt about that. But Scotty, like, somehow, despite some particular stat categories that I actually have an increased weight on this week, where he's legitimately struggling. And I'm talking about long irons. I'm talking about playing out of the rough. I'm talking about sand saves. Like on the season, he's 34% in terms of sand saves for the bunker. That ranks outside of the top 200 in PGA Tour players. I worry that that could sort of be a kryptonite for him this week with a lot of those steep face bunkers that really pretty well protect these greens and some of the runoff areas that could get into them. It's just not been a strength of him and something that I feel much more confident in Rahman. Now you mentioned there's some up for debate in terms of the number three player, and people might have different options there. For me, that's Rory, Rick, and I don't know where you stand if you think Cantlay or Xander are really close to him. He's in this really, really interesting spot right now where I don't think anyone quite knows who to lump Rory with. Like you have the two guys at the top. You can kind of pencil in Xander and Cantlay as an even matchup. Who do you pair with Rory if you're making a head-to-head match? Are you going to make him a heavy underdog at Oak Hill against one of the top two guys, or are you going to make him a heavy potential favorite against like a Patrick Cantlay this week? Do you have him as your number three? Let's start there.
But I do. But I think it is. I think there's a conversation to be had about Xander Cantlay.
Okay.
I think that that's fair, but if you made me settle, I would settle on Rory. So here's where he's at right now, and you mentioned it. The sentiment on Rory is not great with 24 minutes to go in this IPO. He's at $1.13. He's the sixth pre-ranked golfer, which is kind of a little bit of a disservice to him. He has lost you pretty significantly in 5 out of the last 6 jock markets. Have people like just had enough of Rory? There's too many other big names. Is there a chance that, all things considered, it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be cheap, but is there a chance we get a deal on Rory McIlroy tonight?
I think there is. I think this is the place that you have the best chance to get that. I don't love the betting price, although I think it's one of the best betting prices you're going to get at a major, from the last 2 to 3 years to the next 2 to 3 years on Rory. I just don't love where he's at. I think this is the place where you're going to catch potentially a little blue light clearance aisle special on Rory McIlroy because the sentiment is so high. I mean, Xander's already up to $8. Patrick Cantlay's received a ton of love this week. Tony Finau is playing great. You have all the big three of the Live Tour coming in with some form. I think that this could be a spot where we sleep a little bit on Rory McIlroy. I know that some people that I trust a lot really love him this week, and some other people don't. There's just everyone seems to be torn on him. He seems to be torn on himself. I don't know if he knows quite what to think, if he's positive, if he's negative, if he's, wants to talk, if he doesn't want to talk, if he's in a good mental headspace, if it's bad. I just think there's a lot of unknowns right now, and that could potentially lead to a discounted price.
His fair value is $7.47, which is asking him to finish 20th or better. He's at $4 per share, the sixth pre-ranked golfer, as I mentioned. Kind of stepping out of those top-tier golfers, Joe, and into the next set of names. We spent some time talking about Cam Smith. We haven't spent a lick of oxygen on Justin Thomas or Max Homa or Cam Young or Terrell Hatton or Victor Hovland. That's really the next class of golfer that I find to be most interesting in tonight's market.
Yeah, I think that Victor's very overlooked. My concerns with Victor are, of course, the same concerns that I had with Colin Morikawa, although I think that you get a discounted price on him this week. I haven't heard his name too much. Still fantastic driver. I think that the experience and the repetitions that he got under a little bit of contention pressure at the last 2 major championships will serve him well moving forward. Justin Thomas is one where I'm really kind of torn, and I don't know quite where I'm at with JT. One second, I find some signs that I think are pointing to a positive direction. I like the switch to aim point, but then you look at some numbers from some of the form recently, and it's just hard to fathom him being one of the top 6 or 7 guys on the board.
End up being late on JT, right? I mean, if you've been trying to be late on JT for literally a year, you've gotten away with it, right? That's the thing. And I don't love the way that I see him acting on the golf course, which is strange because he's like one of the few guys that I kind of think this with, and we've talked about this plenty, Joe. It's like he starts missing putts, and he has told us that he starts pressing about trying to hit it closer and trying to be perfect on every single shot. I think he has to show me he has gotten past that to make me feel good about investing again. So I'll probably just wait and see if he wins. Listen, if he wins his third PGA championship, like hat tip, all good, but I don't think I'm going to have a part of it.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the putting, it's legitimately a struggle for someone who is his caliber of player. That's kind of I feel like you mentioned it. He is so much thought is going into the putting stroke for him. And the best putters in the world, I don't think even really think about their putting stroke. Like Cameron Smith is just hitting the putt toward the hole. And like there's a singular focus there where a lot of outside variables are creeping into the head of Justin Thomas right now. Now you're adding in aim point, which puts even more thought into play and remove some of that. But it's just another thing and another thing that he's sort of trying out. And it just ultimately leads me to believe there's a little bit of uncomfortableness there.
Well, we continue to move down this list, and I think there's a couple of names that we probably need to talk about. Matt Fitzpatrick is the 20th pre-ranked golfer with a fair value of $5.75. That's asking him to finish 32nd or better. Ricky is here, 509 currently, 545 in his IPO. And then Jordan Spieth, who has not moved I'll refresh this again, but it's not moved off a dollar here, Joe, because I think there are a lot of concerns about that risk. Those three, that trio of Fowler, Fitzpatrick, and Spieth, I find fascinating.
Yes. Fitzpatrick perennially seems to be overlooked. I do see that now he's currently cleared his fair value projection, and you're asking him at 608 per share to finish somewhere. Let's see, it's 608 per share. He needs to basically finish 27th or better. So still some room to run there for Fitz. Speed's the interesting one, man. He looks everyone that I've heard there, and you're there, so you tell me, but everyone has said that there are no signs of injury besides a little bit of tape on the wrist. There isn't any wincing. There isn't any differences that noticeable within the swing. And he's apparently playing pretty well, which he was doing before the injury at the Wells Fargo Championship when he had a fantastic run of form, consistently printing money in the jock market as he didn't have any wins in that run, but fifth, fourth, second place finishes. Like he was really piling up great returns for a while.
I mean, you're right. I'll just echo the same thing. I watched him go through an entire practice routine like it was any other week and no difference. So I don't know what that's worth, but if that's worth anything to you, then certainly take it. Now, as we continue down the stretch, I'll remind everybody that we've got about 18 minutes to go in this Jock Market Power Hour, the IPO phase, and you can even short some of these golfers. So if you want to take your bonus, $100 bonus by using the code POWER and go and try a short. Let me play out an example for you here. So I'm going to pull this up, Joe, so everybody can see. Let's just say Xander Schauffele. I'm big on Xander this week, so this is very much just an example. So he's currently at $8 per share. So if you said, you know what, I'm going to short Xander at $8 a share, basically that means his break-even point would be 18th or better. If Xander finished 18th or worse, you would make money. If he finished 17th or better, you would lose money, and you'd have to kind of front, you'd lose more depending on how well he does. If he wins, you would do worse than if he finishes 7th, and vice versa. If he misses the cut, you'd get paid more than if he just finished 33rd. So that's another way that you can get involved. Dare I even ask, Joe, is there anybody worth shorting here? I know my track record on the Power Hour is less than pristine on the shorts.
Yeah, I haven't been great well as either, to be honest with you. You did a great explanation there, and I think the two-way markets being introduced about 6 months ago really sort of opened up a lot of the liquidity in IPOs, really sort of balanced things out where it wasn't just 100% buy coming in. There's people able to play both sides for each player now in the IPO and once the live event started. So it definitely opens up a whole nother portion to the game. Now you've got to pay a little bit more down unless you go to one of the guys at the top. Per share, basically, because you're flipping from the $25 payout when you go to that $8 player. But I think that there's a lot of players where it could make some sense for. I'm not real high. It's not that I'm not high on Scotty this week because I respect all the takes and the finishing positions that he has. But if he's close to the price of John Rahm, like he is in other markets, I'm okay with shorting that side of Scotty versus doing it with someone like Rahm.
You know what? I was so excited earlier to kick this thing off. I probably should have mentioned one other new thing for this week, and it's something that the PGA markets have never seen before. But once this IPO ends, Joe, users are going to see featured orders within the mobile app. And these orders are a way to accomplish a couple of goals. They're going to allow sellers to sell kind of more in bulk. It's going to allow buyers to buy more in bulk. It's going to guarantee a certain number of shares in one click. So one of the things, so let's describe kind of the issue that we've run into before. You mentioned it before. If you wanted to buy 20 shares of a golfer, what could go wrong in that process?
Yeah, so one of the things you will see that could potentially has frustrated me before when you're looking at the bid, a bid price on a player, right? You'll see someone available, there's shares available for $8 a share. I will go in and try to scoop those up, right? I want 20, 25 shares of that player at that price. Problem is there's only 2 shares available at that price, and then it's going to shift to a higher price point. So you're going back in and ordering more shares. What this is essentially doing is guaranteeing a certain amount of shares. Each player has to be within sort of 20% of their current live price, $100 sort of the minimum buy-in. And it's just simplifying things, man. It's just a simple one-click thing where you're able to purchase sort of shares in bulk of a player at a discounted price. And what it's really meant to do is to encourage live trading, which I think it is going to have that effect. The more live trading that we can get within this app week to week, the better pricing, the more fun things are, the more opportunities there are for you to add, to buy, to sell shares of the players that you currently have in your portfolio. So just sort of another innovative approach, and I'm sort of excited to give it a whirl later tonight.
You'll see those featured trades highlighted there in the market. They'll be called out, which I love. Very, very simple. It's a good idea. And I think, Joe, you and I will get our toes wet with that after this IPO closes. We'll see if we can put some out there and get them locked and loaded into the app.
Very cool. Yep.
The
As soon as IPO closes, if everything goes as planned, you will start to see them just right in the all players tab. When you're looking through the different players, they'll show up as sort of flagged buys at the top. So it's been working out really well in some of the other markets that they've tested it on, and really seen a higher volume of live trading. And we're hoping to see the same thing transpire with PGA as we have these long 4-day contests, which are sort of set up perfectly for this type of app.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So 13 minutes to go in this IPO. It is getting hot and spicy. John Rahm, $9.75 a share. That's a 25-cent lead over Scotty Scheffler, with Xander Schauffele at $8 behind. Joe, let's go further down the board. I'm not sure if you can see my screen, but I'm trying to just find some longer shots here, right? Guys that might have been 80 to 1 in the markets or longer. I think Gary Woodland comes to mind. Is there anybody, with all the oxygen, and this is what's interesting about the jock market. At an event like this, at a golf course like this, we've spent a lot of time talking about who is going to win. There is money to be made at every finishing position here. You don't need the winner.
Yeah, there's two players, I think, for me. Obviously, you mentioned Gary Woodland. I'm very high on him this week because of a lot of the long iron play. A couple of other guys who've been really proficient from those ranges as well. Keegan Bradley. I have bets in on Keegan Bradley. He's gained nearly 5 strokes tee to green in 5 of his last 8 tournaments. He's had some good finishes at a number of the elevated events here. I think of a 2018 finish at a classical Northeast course in Aronimink where he was able to win the BMW. That's a very positive sign for me. Also, a Donald Ross design there. And I think that any place that is going to place an increased emphasis on the importance of both off the tee and ball striking, full, complete tee to green analysis of a player. Keegan Bradley checks a lot of those boxes for me. And the other guy, the guy he was in the playoff with at Aronimink in 2018, Justin Rose. I have a lot of positive signs that I've seen from Justin Rose game this entire season. I think that he's elevated his performance standards off of his baseline that we've seen maybe the last 2 to 4 years. He's playing much better golf right now. He's top 20 in sort of fairways hit, so he's plenty long off the tee, but he's also very accurate, which I think is going to be well suited this week. The other two things about Justin Rose, he's a great sand player, top 5 on the tour right now in terms of sand saves, and he just has an understanding of the exam that he's about to face with a difficult major championship test. It's different than playing TPC Craig Ranch. It's different than playing the Mexico Open. You are not firing at every pin. There is a much more strategic approach of just hold your stack, man. Hold on as long as you can for dear life. Play to the center of greens. Make your pars as players continue to whittle down the odds board, and you can find yourself potentially on a Sunday with 6 or 7 players left who really have a chance. Then you can sort of pounce and make your move, but it's a much more conservative style approach to golf than I think that we see week to week on the PGA Tour. And the players that exercise patience and level-headedness usually win out in these type of environments.
It's a battle of attrition, right? It's a battle of survival. It's a battle of limiting your mistakes. We were talking before we went hot, like, it's easy to make bogey out here. It's going to be easy to make double. It's just like how quickly can, and everybody's going to do it. It's just how quickly can you get it back on track? That's right. What it is. And there's a reason that Justin Rose has been around for as long as he has been around. How about this one? I didn't know if you were going to go here, and I think it'll tickle your fancy. I really like what Matthew Neesmith has been up to.
Okay.
Yeah, he slumped hard, slumped really hard.
He did.
Got a different format. We talk about this all the time. Got a different format, a different look at it at the Zurich. Made a deep run there, and now all of a sudden he's like back to being the guy that we saw at the end of the year, which was gaining a ton of strokes on approach, being very good off the tee. I know it is a small sample, but like in a way that I'm going to be late on JT, I'm going to try to be early on Matthew Neesmith, right? I mean, it's too cheap. He doesn't have to finish that highly to get me a pretty decent return. And if he gets back to what we saw at the end of, it was at the end of the season. It wasn't at the end of 2022. It was like the RSM Classic, I think, was like the last event. He was like dominant, and he was playing such good golf. So I'm ready for it. I got to take a stab at him.
That's a very good one. I hadn't really thought about Neesmith, but sitting there right around like $2.30 right now obviously makes an attractive price point as a buy with a player with a ton of upside. I think that, like you mentioned about the fairways really firming up, brought a lot of these guys into play. Another one of the ones kind of a la in a Neesmith category that I had initially sort of written off. But as the week has gone on, I've come around a little bit on how about Russell Henley? You want to talk about a fairway plotter? He's number one in terms of fairways gained of anyone in the entire field. His last four elevated events, big time fields, big time golf courses. I'm talking about the Masters, the Players Championship, the Heritage, the Match Play, where the best players in the world are. Russell Henley's finished top 20 in all four of those events. He's quietly putting together some very solid performances. This course, of all the major championships that we've seen, I mean, don't get me wrong, 7,400 yards is a brute if you or I go out there. But I think in terms of the major championship tests that we have seen year in and year out, it's on the shorter side. And I think it really allows an avenue for players who hit it 290 off the tee and pound a bunch of fairways to really have a place to compete here. And that was ultimately the goal of carrying the PGA in terms of setup. They had a great course picked out for it. And I think that someone like that could also potentially play pretty well this week.
Here in just a minute to go do your bidding, but I wish I could just whisper this. Like, I, I don't mind Bryson this week. He's
I
only
know. What's his price?
284, I think, is the last time. 287 is the last I saw. His fair value is 248. So, like, what? Finish 50th and make you money?
It's been going much better than it has the last couple of weeks on Live. He looks healthy. He looks happy. He looks at a good spot. He's still one of the longest guys in terms of carry distance when he wants to crank it up on tour, when he can still on certain holes. It's just going to be a matter of, is he able to have the short game and the control on some of the iron shots that we were used to seeing, like when he was able at the top of his game to win at a place like Winged Foot. We've heard it comped a lot. Like I don't hate the comparison, and he was obviously the best in the field that week. And if you just need him to top 50 and squeak through with a cut this week, it makes some sense.
6-6 stuff, but I certainly don't mind. All right, Joe, get out of here. Go make your bids.
Okay.
Go see what your portfolio is and see if you can get to the top of the leaderboard. Again, we'll catch you up with Joe here in a couple of minutes because it is not only 8:54 p.m. Eastern time by my clock, but literally where my feet are. And we've got about 5 minutes to go until this IPO is over. So this is generally the time where a lot of the final bids start rolling in, and I will take you the rest of the way. We have two golfers who have cracked into the $10 tier. They are, of absolute no surprise, John Rahm at $10.25. That is $1 over his fair value. It is asking him to finish 11th or better. Scotty Scheffler, the second pre-ranked golfer, 10.01, second most expensive golfer. Again, no surprise there. Then you get a gap from 10.01 at Scotty Scheffler to Xander Schauffele at 8.50 with Patrick Cantlay and Tony Finau, and now Rory McIlroy joining them in the $8 tier. Then you get another gap. Nobody in the sevens. And then this is where you get everybody else. Justin Thomas, DJ, Sung J Im, Victor Hovland, Cam Young, Brooks Koepka, Colin Morikawa, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So looking through a couple of these real quick. Justin Thomas in the jock market has been hit or miss. He won you money at Wells Fargo, lost it at the Heritage, lost it at the Match Play, or excuse me, lost it at the Masters. won you money at the Valspar, lost it at the Players, lost you at the API, just kind of all over the place. Colin Morikawa, kind of similar. 2 consecutive losses, 2 wins before that, alternating wins and losses for a while. Just a lot of inconsistencies across the board. Down into that $5 range is Max Homa, a guy we haven't spent much oxygen on. 10th in the pre-rank, very good pre-rank for him. Played much better at Quail Hollow, a golf course that he's always had good success at. T8 there, 56% ROI for Max. And then I'll point out one more before I give this a refresh. We spoke about Wyndham Clark, but let me just put this on paper. A huge win at Wells Fargo, 366% ROI, and then 5 wins in his 6 starts prior. So that is 6 wins in his last 7 starts. He's at $5.72 a share. That is asking Wyndham Clark to finish in 29th or better. Okay, let me refresh the board. Joe, I will remind you that I cannot see you, so you will just have to yell at me when this IPO closes.
You got it.
Thank you, sir. And we will go that way because we are on the road this week. Okay, John Rahm has just added another quarter to his price, now $10.51. We are starting to see that love come in from Rory McIlroy. I mentioned it earlier, 3 pretty significant losses in a row. Hasn't been a winner in the jock market since the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and he lost the 2 before that. So it's been a really rough stretch. If you've been buying shares of Rory, you have not been getting the return that you are looking for. He's now $8.42. I will say this. Right now is the cheapest he has been in a year since last year's PGA Championship. The only other IPO that he's had in the $8 range is the BMW Championship. He was $8.77. So if he keeps it below $9, we'd be in pretty buy low opportunities for Rory McIlroy in terms of what that actual value ends up being. Pretty good pre-rank on some of these guys down here, like Sahith at 28th in the pre-rank. He's right around his fair value, $4.82 at the moment. I've said and described that he could probably be effectively wild this week as long as he avoids the big stuff. It's not super bad where he might end up hitting it. The love for Gary Woodland coming in right now, he's a quarter over his fair value. He's up to $4.25 a share. He's been a winner in 3 out of his last 4, and at $4.25, you're just asking him to finish 40th or better. One of the better ball strikers in the world right now, 40th or better. 8:58 p.m. Eastern time. So we've got about 2 minutes to go, about 1:15 or so to go, but it can close at any point before 9 p.m. Eastern time. Let's get that refresh in here. John Rahm staying put, $10.52. Nothing of note there since last refresh. Rory McIlroy, okay, Rory is, every time I've refreshed this, he was the 7th most expensive, then the 5th, now the 4th, and just 6 cents behind Xander Schauffele to be the 3rd most expensive golfer. Here comes Brooks. That 39th pre-rank, not holding him back at the moment. $6.80. He jumps over DJ, jumps over Victor, jumps over Cam Young, Jason Day, amongst others. $6.80 per share is asking Brooks Koepka, fresh off his runner-up finish at the Masters, to finish 23rd or better at this week's PGA Championship. I'm going to try to refresh this one more time. We're in the final minute. It can close at any point. This IPO can shut down, lock you out, and turn you into live trading here any second. And I think
we are shut down,
yeah,
Rick.
Yep. So I went for the refresh and I got the blank screen. All right. We're going to let the dust settle here and see what happened. But I don't think we got anything super outrageous at the top, Joe. I'm going to see if I can find these numbers. Okay. I have the final numbers now. Do you want to tell us who you got in your portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
855. 855. The cheapest price you've heard anyone say on this player in a long time, and it's Rory McIlroy. This was the place I was willing to accept a little bit of that risk. He came in, well down the odds board, below where I thought he was going to come in. So I think it's a good price. Tony Finau right under him at 832.
Hold on, Joe. I'll tell you, that's the cheapest he's been in a year. And it is one of his cheapest IPOs, ever. Very, very good price on Rory McIlroy.
You know me, I like to buy low, so I'm going for it with Rory this week. So I had Finau also in that low $8 range. In the $6 range, both at $6.75 and $6.85, the Bash Brothers. Team them up, Brooks and DJ. I'm going with both of them there. Then we move down into sort of the low $5 range. Willing to take on a little bit of risk with Hideki Matsuyama this week at 540. Sam Burns, perennially overlooked, I believe, $5.20 this week. And then sort of some of the penny stocks. First, I had Gary Woodland at 438. I won't want to forget to mention Gary. And then the guys that I had in the $2 and $3 range were Harold Varner, Cameron Davis, and Yannick Hall. So that rounds out my 10 players this week. I'm excited to see. I'm looking at offers to see if anything's going to come in sort of on those featured numbers, but that's who I got right now.
I love a good Yannick Paul for cheap. That is where you want to be. He's been phenomenal. Okay, so I'm going to keep an eye out for the featured stuff as well. But here's the final pricing. So Rom at 1052. That is actually asking him to finish. What did I say on that? 11th or better. It's actually like the most conservative. This is actually the cheapest price we've seen on him since the Tour Championship.
Wow, really?
Why is that?
I don't know. Why do you think that is? Is it because people are accepting that the PGA is more wide open than some of the other majors? But it's funny. Like, what was he at the Masters? John Rahm went for.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have this sort. I have it. No, 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 no. Sorry. I had it sorted by. Sorry. I had it sorted by price. So let me actually try
Okay.
that again.
It
Yeah,
makes a little more sense, but I'm very shocked he didn't clear $10.
he did. He was 1052.
Oh, he was. Okay. Okay. I
Yeah,
must have the
sorry.
wrong numbers in here.
I was
Yep.
I got us all confused there. So 1052. Yeah, he was 980 at the RBC Heritage. Okay, so got it. That's nothing crazy. Okay. Scotty at 1025, big gap to everybody else. That's expected. Xander checks in as the third most expensive with Rory and Cantlay right behind, and Finau the only. Look at this though. So 1052, 1025, dollar plus gap. Then after Finau, dollar plus gap to Justin Thomas. So very defined levels of golfers this week.
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot of the gaps that we just spoke about. Sorry, I was a little distracted. I just saw some of the featured bets are now live and coming in, so there's
Oh,
opportunities
I
to
see it.
short that caught my attention. I just scooped one up. You want to
I
know who I
just
got?
saw. I think it happened very quickly. I think it was either Scheffler or Cantlay.
Scheffler.
I saw it. Yeah, I literally. So I don't know if you. I mean, I saw it. So like, this is obviously a really bad way to do it, but there's a short on John Rahm right now for 30 shares. You could short John Rahm for 30 shares at 13th or worse, and
Yep.
scoop that up right now for $2.95. That is pretty darn cool. That's a pretty slick way to do that.
Yeah, this is really cool how it's kind of adding shares to it. And I got Scheffler at the same price, basically, 13th or worse on 18 shares on a featured one there. Very cool. I'm excited to sort of continue to check this out as the week goes on.
How about Jordan Spieth and Tommy Fleetwood being basically the same price, 583, 580? The Spieth sentiment not super strong this week.
Yeah, not super strong. Bit surprised there. Fleetwood is certainly you don't expect him to come out here and win as he hasn't shown the ability to do so, but he's been very solid in the jock market. But Spieth has been playing, if you don't factor in the injury, at an elite like top 5 level player over the last 2 months. So if you can catch a little bit of injury break on him, I don't think the withdrawal concerns are as valid anymore. I think we would have already heard something in regards to that. Same with Hideki, which is why I took him. But yeah, good price on Jordan.
I love it. Well, listen, I'm going to remind people of a couple things. Power is the code you're looking for. There's a link in the description. Get you a $100 deposit bonus. Live trading now starts. So you can now do this live in game. You can short, you can buy, you can sell, you can watch for a little bit, and then do whatever you want. It's open for the next 4 days. And now I'm very interested. There's another short on Scotty Scheffler that just came through as a featured trade. So you could short Scotty 12th or worse for up to 33 shares right now. 333
Yep, that's better than I just got.
Yeah.
The price is getting better.
This
And if you
is
scroll
sick.
down, they've got some buys available. You mentioned Spieth. So Spieth is an available buy right now. You can get 20 shares of Spieth. at $6 per share, basically 28th or better. And then Sahith Tigala is 31st or better. You can grab 20 shares in just one easy click there. So
Love
scroll down
this.
a little bit. You'll see these continuing to update throughout the next couple of days.
Kepka has a short on him as well. I just love like the ease and the efficiency of that instead of having to worry about how many shares are there. That's a really savvy. It's not like it's not like a feature, or I guess it is a feature, but it's not like a major upgrade to the game or anything like that. But it's like a major upgrade to like the user experience, which I love.
Yeah, simplicity always reigns supreme. So very cool idea.
I don't have to mess around with that. All right, Joe, I appreciate you, brother. It is always good to end my week of research with you and start our week of live action together. We will be back at it again next week for the, I will admit, I don't even know what next week is.
Charles Schwab,
Sure.
I, I think.
I literally have done nothing but focus on this trip, this tournament. I don't, it is the, good job, Charles Schwab. You're a professional.
Listen, you are the ultimate professional, my man, the busiest man in show business. I know you've been on the road now for like 10 straight days. So I'm not surprised you don't have it, but continue to do the great stuff this week. We'll keep our eyes glued to CBS Sports to check you out on the coverage. And good luck, man. Enjoy the PGA Championship. It should be extremely fun.
Much. Follow Joe on Twitter at TorPicks. You can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your Jock Market Power Hour for this week's PGA Championship. Good luck.